2026. You are good to me. Welcome back to On Air with Dr. Pete. I'm your host, Dr. Pete Economo, and today I have a very special guest for you. That's because this is a dear friend of mine, colleague,
Yes.
Dr. J. We go way back up. I'm going to give you a little bit of a rundown of who Dr. Jennifer Jones is. She is a
Mhm.
licensed psychologist. She's also a licensed professional counselor, and she is the director of CAPS, which is the counseling center, but it offers all things behavioral health to Rutgers
Yes.
University. That's where we currently, but we go way back. She's a graduate of this ID program at Rutgers, and she's just a wonderful human being, and she's been a great person
Oh,
to work
thank
with.
you.
She's the first Black psychologist to be the director of CAPS. This is a very big deal and a big job, y'all. So welcome to the show, Dr. J.
Yes. Thank you so much for having me, Dr. Pete.
It's such a pleasure. So, I want people to get to know you because when did we first meet? Do you
I want
remember?
to say it had to be maybe 5, 6 years ago, if not before that.
Yeah, it was probably like I knew of you, but it was probably like it was what I feel like I remember being at the museum was like one of the like places. I don't know if that was like in the
Maybe.
beginning. Remember that like that Rutgers Museum place? There was some event there that
Wait, was it
Gazette had.
during COVID? Because I came to Rutgers during COVID,
You came
but
in
I think I
COVID,
might
yeah.
have known you. I think I've known
Before.
of you before COVID. Yes,
Because you were an
before
alumni, and
2020.
so you were involved in some of the alumni work at Gazap, or right? At least
Yes,
peripherally.
definitely. So whenever the dean had the multicultural dinners,
Yes, that's
and
probably what it
that might be
was.
where we might have met.
Because then that's when you first met Dr. Conway, then Frank Conway, right?
Yes, when she became the dean, and I think
Yes.
it was a part of her actual hiring process because they allowed alumni to sort of chime in, and she was amazing. I mean, I know she's an amazing chancellor, but I almost wish she was still our dean.
Oh,
She was
you
great.
and me, you and me both.
She was great.
I think I've had 5 deans since she left to become chancellor.
Yes, yeah, a lot of change over at Gazette.
You're preaching to the choir. So yeah, it was always a pleasure to meet you. I feel like we've just known each other forever.
Definitely, and we just vibe because I think we have this a similar sense of humor.
We do, yeah,
and similar cynicism and a
yeah.
big heart to help all these young people. So
Oh my God, I love that. And you have to in this field. So for listeners, like cynicism might sound negative, but sometimes as colleagues, we have to kind of keep some of the stuff light because what the work we do is you're going to learn because
it's heavy.
Dr.
Yeah.
J is really trained in trauma. So she competed really highly competitive 2-year postdoctoral fellowship at Mount Sinai, Beth Israel for traumatic stress. And so tell people how you got that. Like, how'd you get interested in that?
Yeah. Well, it's so interesting because when I was at Rutgers for school psychology, I was in the schools, obviously, and
Yeah.
some of my favorite kids were just disappearing. And I would come back and I'm like, well, where's so and so? And they were like, oh, he got arrested or he's down in Jamesburg. And then my heart would just sink because these were like really good kids who often got suspended, got in trouble. And then I thought, I want to see what's on the other side. So I ended up doing my internship in Wisconsin, and I wouldn't recommend living in Wisconsin. Oh my goodness. It snowed
Why?
like
Why?
October 1st and snowed all the way until Mother's Day. It
Oh
actually
my
snowed.
God.
But there I worked for a correctional facility for young people. So ages maybe 11, 12, all the way up to 25. But the average age was about 15 or 16.
Yeah.
So doing what we think as psychologists is the thing to do. You have the kids sitting in front of you. How'd that make you feel? What's
Yeah.
going on? Tell me about your problems. And
Yeah.
then before you know it, they were released, and then they would come right back within a
Mm,
couple of months
yeah.
because they would either recommit another crime. They're going back to the same environment. And that's when I realized, you know what? It's more than just, it's more than just the child that's sitting in front of you. It
Yeah.
is the environment they're embedded and also trauma. And
Yeah.
so all these young people had trauma. And so I was really lucky to land the SAMHSA funded
Mm,
postdoc at Mount Sinai, Beth Israel in New York, and spent 2 years really understanding trauma, its impact on youth involved in the justice system, and working with officers and probation and judges and
yeah.
attorneys to start looking at these youth through a lens that isn't just these are bad kids. These are kids that had really bad things that happened to them. And that was the launch of just my passion in trauma
Yeah.
and working with these young people.
So Wisconsin, then, so you kind of did this flip. You went to the Midwest, and you came back to the East
Mhm.
Coast. So East Coast has
Yes.
always been home.
Always been home. I went to
Yeah,
University of Virginia, so a little more
yeah,
southeast,
yeah,
and then always came back to New
yeah.
Jersey. New Jersey's home for me.
So it snowed in
Mhm.
Wisconsin from October to Mother's Day.
Yes.
Were you a mother then yet?
A mother? No, no.
Oh, okay. Because when you
I
gave
was single, ready to mingle, and there weren't a whole lot of people to mingle with in Wisconsin, so I had to come back east.
Yeah. Until you later found the people to mingle. I know. Well, I only know that because you have these beautiful children now, and
Yes,
yeah, that's
yes. So I was married in 2016, and we
yeah,
have three beautiful children. Justice is my oldest, Jericho is my middle child, and
yeah,
then Jade is my youngest. And
yeah.
so really excited.
Lots of
They're
J's.
6, 7. Oh my God, I can't believe I said that. And 3.
Oh my God. I was watching, this is ridiculous. There's a South Park episode, which I don't watch South Park in years, but
Yes.
what's going on in 2025, they are very funny with Trump.
Okay.
And there was this whole episode on 6-7.
Really?
Yeah, it's really, and it's so crazy because you met my clinical team at Rutgers. Everyone loves
Yes,
you.
they're great.
And
Yes.
this, I only just learned about 6-7 a few months ago, like in the
Yeah,
fall.
ditto,
For
ditto.
real?
It blew up. It just blew up a few months ago.
No, no,
Yeah,
no. We're late. We're late.
we're late.
We're late to the party. Yeah.
Okay, that's
Because
why
we're behind the
I'm
curve.
auntie now. I'm an auntie
Yes.
now.
So,
Auntie status.
yeah, no doubt. So we were late. So that's why when I learned about it, I was like, and they could, one of our younger externs tried to explain it to us.
And they couldn't.
Not really, because there's really nothing to explain.
No, it's just this random number that somebody had they could set in a rap song, and
Yes,
then
exactly. The
and
song is
now
nasty. Did you hear
it is
Oh, the
okay.
lyrics are nasty.
Okay,
Yeah, Dr.
yeah,
Johnson, I like we played it for everybody, and we were, Doctor, our girl, Dr. Johnson.
yep.
We were
Dr.
like,
Denise
we were
Johnson.
cringing.
Really? Okay. Well,
Yeah,
then I'll do myself a favor and not listen to the song. It's okay
that's
if I'm
probably
not that trendy. So.
you. We don't need to be trendy anymore. All right, so you come back in this SAMHSA.
Hmm.
I mean, how many of your colleagues were going to do this trauma work? And by the way, I wish I had like
Yeah.
10% of your heart because you were like, I need to learn about these kids that I'm no longer getting to see in school. So you went into
Yeah.
the prisons. Like
I
I know
went, I
that about
went,
you
I went
because
into the prisons, yes. And
yeah,
so, well, actually not prisons. What's interesting, most people don't know the difference between jail and prison. So jail, you
that's
haven't
me.
been
Yeah,
convicted yet,
yeah,
but prison is usually you've been sentenced, you have, you'll be there
yeah.
for a certain amount of time. But these youth were sentenced, they were adjudicated youth. And so they might be sentenced to 6 months, 12 months. They tried to call them correctional facilities versus
Okay.
prisons for the young
Yeah.
people. But like when I left SAMHSA, everybody says, what do you mean it's your dream job? My dream job was actually working at Rikers Island. I would still be
Now
there
explain what
today.
Rikers Island is for people because there's listeners who don't know what that is.
Well, okay, so Rikers Island is the notorious jail
Yeah.
in New York City, and so it's a jail for all 5 boroughs. And so if you were to be arrested in any of the boroughs, you might go to maybe a borough jail, but if you are waiting trial or going to be away for a bit, you go to Rikers Island. And so Rikers Island has 13 jails on the island. I think only 9 or 10 are active. So
Mhm.
it's massive. And
Yeah.
I would say when I was there might have been 14 or 15,000 I guess they're not inmates, people who are waiting trial and being
Yeah.
charged with things there. But it was my dream job because unfortunately at that time they had young people
Yeah.
on the island. And so New York and North Carolina were the only 2 states in the country at the time that automatically charged 16-year-olds as adults. And so
Okay.
you had 16 and 17-year-olds on the
Wow.
island. And so they had their own building, RNDC, and what they were doing for the first time ever in this country, they were trying to do away with solitary confinement for the
Mm.
16 and 17-year-olds and the young adults, so 18 to 21. And so if they did something on the island that they weren't supposed to do, say spit on one of the officers,
Yeah.
or we call them splashing, throwing urine on an officer,
Yeah.
fighting, really getting into it, they might have been sent to solitary confinement, which is
Yeah.
23 hours in and 1 hour out. But they realized the psychological impact of
Yeah.
doing that to such young, impressionable kids.
Mm.
And lawsuits like Khalif Broder, for those of you who don't remember, Khalif Broder was 16 years old when he went to the island, was there for over 2 years, and eventually all the charges were dropped. He
Mm.
came out, tried to advocate for himself and for others about how the system is broken. And unfortunately, he took his own life
Mm.
shortly after. And a lot of people attribute it to the amount of time he spent in solitary confinement. So
Mm.
they hired me to do the alternative to solitary confinement. So I worked very closely with the DOC, Department of Corrections,
Mhm.
other psychologists, officers on the unit.
Other psychologists that
And
were already there.
yes, other
Okay.
psychologists that were already there.
Yeah.
It wasn't just me like in the buildings, which was great. For all the bad press Rikers gets, they have a really great mental health system and a
Hmm.
really great medical system. And that's through health and hospitals. Like if they
Yeah.
outsource those things to health and hospitals. So even though I
Right.
was working at Rikers, I didn't work for Rikers.
Right. You worked for one of the
And
hospital
so
systems.
yeah, so the hospital system was what was in charge. And what was great about this was if they did something wrong, instead of
Yeah.
being punished, we were trying to correct behavior.
Yeah.
I would say 90% of these young people were eventually going to be back out in New York.
Right.
They're not looking at 25 to life. Most of them aren't there for murder charges. They're there
Yeah.
for
What were
like,
they there for? Yeah.
theft, robbery, at that time, drug charges, because back then when I was there, 14, 15, 16, the cannabis laws aren't what
Yeah.
they are
Yeah. Yeah.
now. And
Yeah.
so if they were found with
Or like a
cannabis or
dime
things
bag
like
or
that,
something. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah.
When they were on my unit, we were able to give them individual therapy. We were able to give them group therapy. They had consequences, which were no commissary. They weren't able to spend all their money on commissary. So there were consequences for doing bad behavior, but the answer wasn't just consequences, it was treatment.
Yeah.
And the hardest part of it all was getting the buy-in of officers who might have been assaulted, officers who might have seen this bad behavior and said, why does so and so get to go on a unit, get music
Yeah.
therapy, get,
Yeah.
individual therapy,
It's like
get
it's
art.
vacation.
Yes, when they've just
Yeah.
thrown urine at me. And so spending time with officers to help them understand trauma, that
Yeah.
a lot of the behavior that the young people are doing are reactions and
Yes.
not just, I'm out to get you.
Well, but you see, the thing is, you understood the system, and so that's why you're talking about the
Yes.
officer. And so from these early days with the school, like you knew it was more than just the kid that was sitting in front
Yes.
of you. So I love that. So wait, why was this the dream job? Like,
It was a dream job because one, it was corrections and I got to work with young people and I
yeah,
got to actually feel the difference I was making.
you saw it.
It's very rare that like you're in a job where like you can tangibly see change.
Yeah,
And while change does take time, some of these young people were there for 6 months, a year, waiting
yeah,
trial or waiting things, and you can see the change in them over time. And so when they left the unit after 30 or 45 days, the reward was they didn't come back. Like
mm,
some of them wanted to come back to visit, but like they didn't re-offend and come back. Now,
yeah,
mind you, not all of them were 100% success stories. I don't
yeah,
want to paint that either, but I think it was my dream job because I knew I was making a difference.
yeah,
I felt like I always say, there's a quote I put on my business card, where there is breath, there is hope.
mm,
And that none of these young people are hopeless. None of these young people have thrown away their lives. They are in a
mhm,
situation right now facing whatever are the consequences of their actions or
yeah,
alleged actions. But that doesn't have to define them. And so
yeah.
I got to go into those units every day and say, you get to decide what you do today and
Well,
define yourself,
beautiful.
and
Well,
I loved it.
I know that the change is motivating you, and I know that you're also doing that change now. I mean, maybe you're seeing
Hmm.
it different ways, but I've watched you transform this department and, direct
Thank you.
CAPS and the counseling center, and you do so it with like grace, because
Thank you.
yeah, you do. You're both a trailblazer, you're a bulldozer, and you'll do it with a beautiful smile on your face.
Yes, yes. Change comes better with a smile. And so I think actually working in corrections has helped me in higher ed.
Yeah,
And people always ask me like that the change seems like a huge leap. But
yeah,
honestly, young adults, whether they are facing time or whether
yeah,
they're in college, they're in the formative years of understanding who they are for the
yeah,
first time outside of their families. Sometimes neither group has had therapy before, so college
right,
students are seeking it for the first time. And also our students who are incarcerated, our young adults who are incarcerated are facing it for the first time. It's funny, when I first came to Rutgers, I had to stop calling them my incarcerated youth. Like, no,
yeah.
they're our young
You got to
adults.
relearn. Yeah,
And it's a magical age because so much change can happen on their own timing in
yeah,
a way that is, they don't have to be 30, 40, 50 years old and
yeah,
having led a life that like now if they don't change it's too late.
yeah,
When you're 18, 19, 20, and you're exploring who you are, understanding who you are, recognizing maybe traumas that have happened when you were young and how it's impacting you now, it's the perfect time to start addressing some of these issues. You're old enough to do it without your parents looking over your shoulder.
Yeah.
old enough to explore whether medication is something you might want to do. And so when I came into higher ed, it was a change for me because there are different problems that young
Yeah.
adults in higher ed have than, young adults who are
You're
incarcerated
facing,
have.
yeah. So wait,
But
so
the
COVID
reward's
was
still the
what
same.
COVID was one of the motivators, right? Like COVID
Yeah.
and your family, I think, like just have,
Yes.
yeah, your family growing. Those are the,
So I had just had my son in December of 2019 and
yeah,
had left Rikers Island because the commute for me was 2.5 hours
yeah,
home and 2 hours there every day. And I did
yeah,
that for almost 5 years. And I'll tell you
yeah.
how much I love the work.
That's right.
And then I became director of Essex County Jail, mental health director.
Okay.
And again, the largest jail in New Jersey. Like I go big. I go big or go home. And at that time, working with their director and changing how mental health is looked at with their individuals. But what was different was at Essex County Jail, there are a lot more adults than young adults. There were young
Yeah.
adults. It was a very different population. And also the mental illness was very different. You had more individuals with schizophrenia and
Yeah.
bipolar and more serious mental illness.
Yeah.
And not that I can't work with that, but that wasn't my
It wasn't your
passion.
thing. Yeah.
It wasn't my thing. And so I'm very grateful that an opportunity came up here at Rutgers. And then when COVID shut everything down, there's
Yeah.
no work from home when you work in the jails. You're in the
Mm-mm.
jails every day. And
Yeah.
having a newborn at home and a 1-year-old at home and not knowing what COVID was, I knew I couldn't risk my family going into the jails every day. So
Yeah.
I made the pivot for myself to higher ed. And I don't regret it. At first, don't get me wrong, I actually didn't leave the job for almost a year. I was per diem for
Yeah.
almost a year doing 2 jobs.
Just in case. Just in case.
It's hard to replace,
Yeah.
somebody at that level. And so I would
Yeah.
go in every morning, do the suicide watches, and then leave and come to Rutgers.
Wow.
But I ended up letting it go because again, that not my passion necessarily working with the adult population.
Yeah.
But working here at Rutgers has allowed me to sort of hone my skills with young adults, be able to supervise my staff in their passions. Like
Yeah.
for me, mine is all about racial trauma. Others, they're working with youth who are coming out for the first time, exploring their identities. At Rutgers, we have a huge South Asian population and international population.
Yeah.
So working with all different types of individuals who love working with young people from various backgrounds is a privilege and a pleasure. I have like the best team here at
You
Rutgers.
do. You've built a great team, but it takes a good leader to build a good team.
Thank you.
Well, my team can compare with yours too. I'm just going to say
Yes,
that.
they can. I was gonna poach a couple of them if I could.
Nope.
Yeah,
But,
well, you poached Kenny from us. Dr. Kenny Ayers, he
Yes.
was our intern, and if I could have hired him, I would. We just didn't have any open positions, but
Yeah.
you
Well,
took him
he's
from us, and he's grown and blossomed. And
he's down south and
yes,
yeah, so he's doing his thing, and that's what we, you and I share that as well, like mentoring,
Mhm.
supervision, just helping young professionals blossom.
yes.
So we're coming up on the year anniversary of your book. Before we get to that, it is a new year, and so how do you celebrate the new year? With this beautiful family and all these, this work that you do and this heart that you have.
For me, it's a reset. I feel like every
Yeah.
year I'm able to sort of reflectively look back, and so looking back at 2025. It was a whirlwind. I had at least maybe 15 presentations, speaking engagements. I did everything from working with probation to New York Department of Juvenile Corrections to companies
Yeah.
about psychological safety. And so for me, when December came, all of us professionals thinking about what are we going to post on LinkedIn to reflect the year? And I actually didn't. I said, you know what? Let me do my own private reset and think, how do I want to really use my skills and get the word out there about trauma, racial trauma for 2026. So although I reflected and loved this past year, my heart sort of like skipped a beat when I thought about the possibilities for 2026. And like you said, with it being a new year and coming up on the 1-year anniversary of the book, I was just thinking, how do I have my message reach more folks? So doing a podcast, with Dr. Pete.
Yes.
Dr. Pete, and just getting out there more. So over winter break, I put in a handful of applications to present at APA and ABSI. I'm presenting at the New Jersey Mental Health, Higher Education Mental Health
Okay. Yep.
summit this
Yep.
Thursday. And so really just going out there more and just having more conversations, not just about trauma, but about racial trauma.
Yeah.
And the hard part is the political environment we're in right now, where
Yeah.
everything you say about race is taboo and
Yeah.
will get you silenced. And
Yeah.
I won't be silenced
We will
because
not be. No.
as a Black woman who's raising Black children, who who just has a heart for not just Black individuals, but people of color in general and our plight, we
Yeah.
can't be silent
Yeah.
about what racial trauma is. And when we start erasing and not acknowledging and naming what's happening, that's when I think the more of the psychological impact comes in, where you get the anxiety, the
Yeah.
depression, the perfectionism, or what they call imposter phenomenon, and all those
Yeah.
things start seeping in. And it's not us that's the
No.
problem. It's the
Yes.
system and
It's
the
the system. Well,
environment.
here we go. Coming back to the system,
Yeah.
right? Whether it was the incarcerated folks, the students,
Mm-hmm.
or just people of color. I really love that you just silently reflected on 2025 as you went into 2026, because the truth is
Yeah.
everything is so, and you think about this burden that you carry,
Mhm.
being the voice for racial trauma as a Black female.
Yes.
So I think I'm so glad to hear that you did
Mhm.
that in a silent way, because it's reparative, it's transformative,
Yes.
and you deserve that, and you need that.
Yes.
So
And like the
yeah,
idea of a reset and a recharge.
yes, yeah,
Because one thing I learned, I was actually in a group it's called Black Girl Doctors.
yeah,
So they're really supportive. And I joined this group one day, and one of the members had said, I never pour from a full cup. And I'm like,
yeah, yeah,
And she
yeah,
said, because my cup should never be half full. My cup
yeah.
should always be full, and I need to give from my overflow.
That's right.
And that I've taken with me for the last 2 years. And I say to folks all the time that if you don't pour into yourself and
Yeah,
keep your cup full, then what you're giving is so much of you that you're not going to last. You're not going to
Amen.
last in this field. You're going to deplete. You're going
Yeah,
to have possibly negative coping skills if you don't know how to really, deal with your own stuff. And so
absolutely.
for me, the last 2 weeks of this old year/new year was a reset. Just spending time with the kids. We didn't travel. I didn't have any speaking engagements. I didn't open up my laptop for work. Literally emailed you this morning and said,
Yeah,
hey, where's the link? And that meant a lot to me. And I don't often do that, but I think this year was very different for me.
I love that. So thanks for sharing that part of you. So let's define racial trauma, but the book is Racial Trauma in Black Clients, Effective Practice for Clinicians. I've been able to watch you on your speaking tour and got to see a couple of the readings. And
Mhm.
so, maybe just talk a little bit about the book and the process, and also shout out to Dr. Kelly Moore, our other,
Yes.
your co-author.
Yes, Dr. Kelly Moore also, she is the first Black director of Rutgers Gazap's Counseling Center.
Yes, the
So
Center
we're
for
both the
Psychological
Black
Services.
directors here at Rutgers
Yes.
representing. But yeah,
Yes.
so racial trauma and Black clients, it birthed out of the work that I was doing myself in schools and in corrections, and then Kelly with her work with parents, with young people as well. I'm school psychology background, she's clinical psychology background, and we paired so well together. She wrote half the book and I wrote half the book about our areas and how we were seeing racial trauma sort of manifest.
Yeah.
So each chapter, there's a chapter on racial trauma in parenting, how to parent and have these conversations, not just for Black parents, but also for parents of any color. And then for me, the chapters I wrote were focusing on the school to prison pipeline, how racial trauma shows up for that, looking at racial trauma in policing, and not necessarily the impact policing has on a Black community, but our Black and brown officers. When racially traumatic things happen, how hard it is to be Black and blue.
Yes.
To be
Oh, yeah.
a Black individual wearing the uniform, feeling like you have to pick a side
Yeah.
and not knowing sort of like the impact it's having on you. So there's a whole chapter on that.
Mhm.
And so what you mentioned is, what is racial trauma? Because I keep
Yeah.
using that term.
Yeah.
And so racial trauma is the stressful impact that one has when you're dealing with racism, discrimination, or prejudice.
Mhm.
And the key thing is, it is not a diagnosis. So if you can be traumatized racially based on, say, someone called you out of your name, you've been having microaggressions, thinking that you're at a store and you feel like you're being followed,
Mhm.
or driving while black. All of
Mhm.
those things are things that have happened to you, and your response, it can cause traumatic stress. And it mirrors that of any other trauma. And
Yes.
so that it could be anxiety, it could be depression. There are very specific symptoms that we talk about in the book that it's for laymen too. It's not a book for just for psychologists. Even though it says treating Black clients, it's
If
great
if
for.
you're working with Black people, no matter where you are in your world, no matter what your profession is, I could highly suggest that. Yes.
Yes, and then it really breaks down sort of a lot of the key terms. And we
Yeah.
went old school. We bolded like the vocabulary words,
Yeah.
understanding what Black Lives Matter meant, Blue Lives Matter,
Yeah.
racial trauma, microaggressions, and we have a glossary at the back of the book.
Yeah.
But the book, that's right, it's a podcast and not a video.
It's in the show notes. It'll be in the show notes.
Yes, it's a pretty easy read.
Yeah.
What I mean by easy is it's not a whole lot of jargon. It really breaks down what racial trauma is, how it shows up.
Yeah.
And the 2 chapters I wrote at the end that I absolutely love was Healer, Heal Thyself. So
Yes.
knowing the work that we're doing, how do we take care of ourselves and doing this racial trauma work? And
Yes.
then Healer, Heal Me. It's not just about coping with trauma, coping with racial trauma. How do you heal from it? And
Yes.
so there's a whole chapter on techniques. And I have to give a shout out to Dr. Nancy Boyd Franklin,
Of
who
course.
this book would not have happened without her. She has been encouraging me and Dr.
Yeah.
Kelly Moore for years to just put pen to our work. And she
Yeah.
introduced us to her publisher, and the rest was history.
She's amazing.
And the work that she did, her foundational work, which was Black clients in therapy
Yeah.
and like raising Black boys, you
Yeah.
know.
Family therapy for Black families. Yeah.
Yes, groundbreaking work, so that I can only, hope
We
that we'll
rest
have some kind of
we
have
rest
the
on the
same kind of
shoulders.
impact.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes,
Well, like you
yeah.
said, when you have breath, there's hope.
Where
And so
there's
there,
breath, there's hope.
where there's breath, there's hope. All right. So we are out of time. But so Dr. J,
Mhm.
so we have the show. Well, in the show notes, we'll put the book. Where else can people find you if they want to, learn more about you and your work?
So I'm always on LinkedIn, and folks can message me on LinkedIn. I have a public profile. So message me if you're interested in the work that I'm doing and you would like me to come speak, or you just sort of want to bend my ear about things. I work full time at Rutgers University. Absolutely love it here. And like I said, my side passion is working with law enforcement. So I have a few contracts in California and New York, but if you or your company or the team that you work with want to know more about trauma or racial trauma, its impact, and what we can do about it, because we don't have to sit idly by while life happens, feel free to reach out.
We'll have all of that in the show notes. Dr. J, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Dr. Pete.
My pleasure. And for you listening at home, thank you for tuning in. If you love this episode, please like, follow, and share. Everything's at officialdrpete.com, everywhere you listen. We will see you all next week. Until then, spread a little kindness and stay well.